Hey, this is Jason Gannigan, the founder of Cold Star Technologies, space and defense company. Operational excellence, all kinds of goodies. And recently I've been getting into animation because I want to learn how to do it myself, but also start a studio where we do a lot of marketing videos for people. I've been a copywriter for 30 years, made a lot of money with it for myself and others. And it's hard work being a copywriter. It's like the male equivalent of giving birth for me, so I don't like to do it really, but I build it into everything that I do. I've also been a executive sales trainer for many, many years, over 15 years, and I've got my own style called Consultative Challenger, which you can learn about more at consultativechallenger.com, which I couldn't believe was available when I got it, but there it was. So since I've been making these animated videos, I've gotten like silence as a response, which is kind of annoying. I don't really know why people react that way. Or, oh, hey, that's great. Or it's amazing what AI can do. I got one of those this morning. And I'm like, this is not AI. AI I use for the drawing because I don't know how to draw well enough, although I have a drawing tablet and I can trace, I guess, which is, if you're an animator and watching this, you'll know what that can open up for you. But this is actually hard work, and I wanted to go over a scene that I created to show you what goes into this. This little 15-second thing took me 5 hours on my weekend, and it's using a software that's relatively new to me, using a couple of functions that I have learned how to use before, but I'm not super familiar with. And there were hurdles along the way that I had to figure out what to do. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing the work myself right now, is so that when I hire animators, I know what the limits of the software are, what a good artist can be able to do, how to help them solve problems, what kind of typical issues come up, that sort of thing, as opposed to going in blind, which is what happens with a lot of like business owners who never learn how to sell, for example, and then hire a sales team and think that they're managing them. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. So let's have a look at the process that I use to come up with this stuff. So the first thing is I get an idea and I go to ChatGPT or some other AI. I use Claude a lot. I've got OpenRouter and I use various tools in there if I want a longer memory. But in this case, I just went to ChatGPT and I said, look, I'm thinking about making a short animation for my interview show, the Cold Star Project Space and Defense show. I don't think it matters what the topic is, but I want to show off that I can do this stuff and put it right in the front so that people see it, because a lot more people watch the beginning of a video than the end, right? So space topics, something fun, exciting, future-oriented. So it comes back with its usual confirmation bias confirming thing, which I hate. I try and tell it to tell me, I try to say, don't ever say, you're absolutely right. I hate it when it does that. But it comes up with some ideas and some questions about it, like what's the tone, setting, narration, intent, what do you want it to do? And so it gives a couple of ideas, and you can pause and read these if you want, but I went with one of them. I like this. I like the idea of in situ resource utilization. I want to stay away from launch. As a space guy, I'm sick and tired of launch. It seems to be all you people know about space, and that's like this much of space is launch. And it gets very tiresome for me. There's a whole lot more to space than launch. And I'm not really even interested in it. I guess it's something that you can see. I want orbital construction platforms and people building stuff up there with a space forge, which is literally a thing. And there's a couple companies working on that and have been for some years now. I interviewed one of them, the leaders of one of them for my show. So if you want to find out more about that, go through the back issues. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about here, is we need a certain amount of space infrastructure up there because it costs a lot of money to kick resources off the planet up through the gravity well and get them into orbit. That's very expensive. If you had minerals and resources up there that you could just use without having to pay to eject them out of the Earth and its gravity, it would be a lot cheaper. So I want to have some factor of awe, but but I like practical realism. I don't like this neural network thing that often seems to come up in the imagery AI suggests for these opening 45 to minute long, 45 second to 60 second or so little mini movies I've been doing this year to open up the show. I don't like that, so stay away. So I'm giving it parameters here, right? And so now it knows what we want, what to avoid, and it's giving me some clarity here. You're essentially showing the world after launch has done its job. And I'm like, oh, that's a good phrase. I really like that. I could use that, right? So then it gives me 3 concepts. And again, you can pause and read those if that's what you want. And I picked the one that I liked, and I told it that I liked that line about after launch has done its job. So now it's giving me essentially a storyboard without drawing, but this is what to make, and I want it with a timestamp attached to it. So it tells me have the asteroid drifting in, have the robotic arms come in. Now it is doing stuff that's more complicated than I want to do. Right? I could probably make a red laser. I'm putting together an orbital platform. I could get pieces moving together, but I thought, let's keep it simple. Let's just have it grab that piece of rock. And then let's have it Pam. And I, of course, did something different here to show an orbital platform. I will do this voiceover later, but that's the easy part. It's giving me some other stuff here. And I'm saying, okay, let's nail this down a little bit more. Here are the tools that I'm using. And let's do this in a straightforward way that won't bog me down in, oh, I have to learn that. Oh, it's in order to do that last thing, I have to learn this thing. Oh, in order to do that, I have to spend 10 hours doing that. And that's kind of the way that this, animation journey is gone, is you kind of wade into trouble and then you got to figure yourself out, right? Like, how am I going to get out of this? That takes time. So, and there was one occasion where I spent 10 hours in Blender working on something, and I went, I'm going to go back to 2D and finish this off that way, because this, while it looks good, is just too complicated for right now. So now it's giving me final timing. It's giving me layers and camera plan, which again is very helpful to me. And that's how these things are structured. When I was just using my video rendering software, it was like pieces of cardboard on top of each other. You can imagine them that way. And there is a back and there is a front and a middle, but it's very thin, right? With this software, this OpenTune software or Blender Grease Pencil, you can stretch that distance between things and have a camera that actually moves through it. And so that's going to give you a very different kind of experience, which is what we're using here. Okay? So, and then it even gave me sound effects. I decided not to go with music. I went with sound effects. I feel sound design is a huge skill of mine. It's a natural, intuitive skill. I look at something and I know what I want. With the music, on other things that I've created, I'll usually pull in a couple of things that sound like they'll be good when I'm listening to the sample part. And then when I put it over the scenery, it's very clear which one is right for it and which one is wrong right away, immediately. There's so I have a sense of like what is right. I didn't feel we needed a star field. It's it's black. That's perfectly fine. The Earth limb, I had to learn about what that was, what it meant by that term, and it just means that bit of the Earth that's visible with light. The asteroid chunk, the robotic arms, a dust layer, which I added in later, and the Cold Star logo, which will go in when I make the final episode and put the voiceover together and all that. I actually went 30 frames a second, not 24. So, and it's saying it can do math for me. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. I didn't need to do that. I can do that by eye. So where's the orbital platform? Because it, yeah, I wanted it up closer. And so that made it change the whole layout um, um, plan for how we were going to do things. And so this was the night before, so Friday night. And then I said, look, I'm going to go watch TV. I'm tired. But the idea seems to be here. Let's look at it tomorrow. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm back here. And my first question is, what do you think will happen with a curved image of the Earth placed in OpenTunes and using the shear function, which actually rotates it around the x-axis? It's pretty cool. And this happens in there. It's, later on I'll say some things that I would do differently the next time I'm doing it. And I would exaggerate this movement more. That's one of them. But it's happening. The Earth is turning this way. The space station or the platform is turning this way. So it's telling me what it thinks it does, how I should avoid it, what I should do with the degrees and not do. And I do not want to do cross-fading or replacing one image over top of another and have one fade in and the other fade out to try and do movement that way. It hasn't looked good for me. I've used it in Ronin Overdrive, and I didn't like it. I've tried different ways of doing it, and I just didn't like it. So try to keep it. So it's stressing this curved limb image, not a full sphere, just the edge of the planet. And again, how to use it, tips to sell. I don't need all this stuff, but it's giving it to me, and it's not bad, right? And so I'm saying I still don't know what it is that you're talking about when you say limb. So I don't have a mental picture of it. So give me the prompt. And so it explains what it is, the edge of the planet. And then I guess maybe I'm still talking to it on Friday night. Maybe I went away and came back. I would never do that because I'm excited about the idea. Okay. So, yeah, this kind of thing. That instinct is exactly right. That's something I hate about chat, is it just keeps telling you that you're right no matter what. Should I bomb Japan? You're absolutely right. So, I'm telling it again what I'm wanting it to do. It's working on the voiceover with me. I'm saying we need a stronger call to action, a more specific direction for what the viewer is supposed to do once they watch this thing. And now it's, oh yeah, I agree with you. That's my copywriting experience coming in. And it's giving me some samples and when to put it in and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to start generating images here. I want you to see and really be conscious of all the prep that we've gone through here. This has probably taken me half an hour to 45 minutes in total time, back and forth, without the break in the middle. And when I'm doing a show concept, I usually have 3 Google Docs open. The first is just general notes for the show, and I'll get chat to ask me questions one at a time to help clarify the concept, location, all that stuff. And so I will go out and I will research as well, not just rely on GPT for the concept, but get pictures of the area. I did that a lot with Endless Summer Racers, my California 1957 or 58 set show. I found a specific town that I wanted and went and found all kinds of pictures online around it. Pictures from the era, because it's right next to a major Air Force base that's going to become the following year, Vandenberg. So it's kind of a fun thing to have in the background, right? So it's a lot of prep just to get to this point. Then I've got another Google Doc with like the characters and the image prompts in them for the general idea of what they're supposed to look like. And then the third one is for the specific scripts for the episodes or segments of episodes that I'm doing. Usually I work on a segment at a time. And 8 or 10 segments will go together into one 12 to 15 minute episode. That's the idea. So it's a lot of prep. So for anybody who just says, oh, you just get AI to make it, like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, watch this video and you will start to learn how much work it goes into and how frustrating it is for somebody like me who is working with this stuff and being said, oh yeah, it's just AI, great, yeah, you know, if you get that response at all, if not silence. So here we are getting, this is a prompt, right? And this is what I would paste into something like Google FX or Gemini or something like that, whatever image generator of your choice. I try to keep with free stuff right now, and that's served me very well. You know, until you're really making money, you should keep using free stuff, and it works perfectly well. So I did not like the look that it gave. And I'm asking, is this like the right photography style, lighting style, etc.? And so it's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, let's talk about this. Here are some different ways of looking at it. Here's what I recommend, which was different than what it said at the start. And I said, yeah, let's go ahead with the prompts. Okay, so there's a master prompt here. This is slightly different than what it has done with me before, but I like it. This would start off everything, or end everything. Sorry, this is the final part of the thing. So if we go to Google FX, and let's do this. Yeah, again, you might not get this result. I've worked with this. It has a memory with me. It knows what kind of structure that I want, but I'm trying to show this to you. So I know I don't need that bold part in the front, but this goes on the end of each of these scenes. And so FX will generate 2 to 4 images, usually 4. Sometimes it gets tripped up of what it could look like. Now, here, the first thing you notice, okay, and this is like image generation iteration and why image generation takes half the time of the freaking project. And so while you go, oh, it's just AI, no. To get to where we got, we had to go through like 6 or 8 iterations. So like 40, 50 of these images, sometimes 200. The AI will lock in on how it wants to draw things, and it will not change it no matter what you say on occasions. So in Ronin Overdrive, I've got a right-hand drive vehicle. They're set in Japan. They drive on the right. Getting AI to draw that is very, very difficult. It's finicky. Okay? You say the word racing, suddenly everyone's got those leather gloves with the holes in them and they're fingerless and stuff like that. It's not what I wanted. I'll tell it. Full gloves covering the entire fingers. You have to adjust the prompt. So there's a lot of iteration here. So the first thing you see is there's a planet in it. I didn't ask for that, did I? So I got to check through here. Floating above the Earth. Oh no. Right? Delete. Okay, what else is going on here that's probably screwed up? Earth curvature in background. No, that's not what I asked for it. Right? I didn't ask for that. And so this is where I usually just dump in the first version the AI gives me to see how it's wrong. And then now I can begin to iterate. Okay, now we're at our second iteration, 4 through 8 images, and we're a little better. Okay, there's still stars, and this is okay. I could not use this because what I want to do is use a background remover software to pull this out. This is no good because look, it's going off the frame, right? This is actually the only good one. So what do we call it? Orbital platform. Okay. Platform entirely drawn on screen, black background without stars. And I'm taking a risk here. By mentioning the word stars, it may draw stars. It doesn't matter whether I say no or without. Yeah, and here, you know, it's slightly better. I wasn't delighted with that. I saw a lot of images going off the screen again. So here's one. So I want you to think about this. Out of 16 images we've generated fairly quickly, maybe I could use that one. I don't know. We might be able to use one, this one. Okay. So I might continue to iterate and look at a few more, and I'll download one eventually. So I'll go through this process for each of these layers. The astronaut, who's like this big in the final thing, but was generated like that big. The robotic arms, the asteroid material, lighting we didn't need to worry about. Eventually I will be moved to Blender where I can put in a light wherever I want and what kind of light. So, and then I go back, and this is the feedback loop. I will send an image back that I like to the AI and go, is this what you meant? Right? Or how could we use this with that? Or I've got this image of a background and this image in the foreground, like a street and a car. Does the lighting match up well enough? Or what do I have to do? Because I often have to do color correction in post. It's just stuff you guys don't see, you don't care about, but things need to match up. And if they look funny, your eye and your brain will notice, even if you know nothing about color theory or anything, right? You'll be like, that doesn't look right. Okay, so I'm uploading. For some reason, it only uploaded one picture. I had two that worked out, and I was like, which one's best? And so I was like, fine, I'll just use this one. And I need modification to the prompt because what it drew wasn't quite right, what I had in my head. I need the AI to draw the full suit. It kept drawing it from the waist up, from helmet to feet, not just a partial body. I need lighting from the right and a plain background so that I could peel it out as well with the background remover. So you see how iterative this is. It takes time. You need to not get frustrated, which a lot of you would. You get frustrated very easily. You know how I know? Because I'm a sales coach. And when I get my salespeople to try and do hunting for leads, and they have to go through a multi-stage process where they're going through Googling or a list, drilling down, and then trying to find a person, an appropriate person from the LinkedIn company profile, and it takes 10 minutes. They can't handle it. Okay? Most people are not cut out to do this. It's you have to force your butt to remain in the seat and to keep driving forward. Okay? And a lot of you are not set up for that. You have ADD and you're like, "Oh no, this is too hard." Okay? And so here, it's still drawing waist up, right? And so this is what happened, right? What I'm talking about when I say the AI gets locked into a point of view or something like that, it was just doing it this way. So it's like, okay, let's try a different thing. All right, at this point, I've got what I've got, and I'm done with the AI, and I've downloaded everything, and this is for Eric Felt's Cold Star Project episode, the third one that he's going to be on. We've already recorded in like July or something like that. I feel bad about it. But so this folder contains some video clips that I'm going to use for that intro sequence that I was talking about, the little mini movie that I make with a voiceover describing what the episode is going to be about. But it also has this stuff in here. So I have in my alts, yeah, so these were things that I generated but didn't use. There's usually an alts folder in these things. Here are the originals. You can see I could have cut that asteroid out. It would have included this other stuff, but I would have cut that out and just concentrated on this. The astronauts, I used this one. I remember the tether. You can see the tether. They're going to be really small. The limb, the scaffold or space station, what have you. The robotic arms, which I removed the background from and then cut in half so that I could use them independently. And so now they are, see, they're independent objects that could be placed into layers. So now we're going to move into here. And what happens is you've got a, you've got a 2D view and a 3D view. And this is OpenTunes, and it is damn hard to figure out what you're looking at and what to do, the syntax of it, okay? But what I did was I put in all my images, and then I arranged them out in the order of which columns they should be in, which is this over here. And that tells you this is the thing most in the back, and the arms are most in the front. and you can move them around and that kind of thing. But you have this 2D display that shows you from the camera what are you looking at. And so you arrange this to be set up. Okay. Are you seeing how difficult this is? This is not just, oh, I have AI do it. Right. And I'm a little pissed off about that, in case you can't tell, because it takes a lot more effort than just telling AI to make something, or a stupid, like that Sora thing, you know, where they just type stuff in, like have Hitler fight with Michael Jackson on Maury Povich or something like that, and it'll make you a 15-second clip like that. Like, give me a fucking break, okay? What I do is a hell of a lot more talented, interesting. It has far greater requirements and will last a lot longer than your stupid pet tricks, okay? This is not a stupid pet trick. This is the core of a lead generation tool. So we've got our pieces. There's our arms and our astronauts in there somewhere right now. But when we go on the timeline, which is here and here, it's in several places. There's several ways to look at things, okay? This is frame one, and if you know, animation is a frame after a frame after a frame after a frame, right? With slight changes in movement in each frame, and that's where we get 24 frames a second, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 50 if you're in Europe, that kind of thing. These are instructions as to where to put something and how it's going to move on the X, Y, and Z axis, okay? So I have to figure that out. I have to figure out how I want it to look. So if we go back to scene one, or frame one, and I back out all the way, this rectangle is what you can see on the camera. So as we begin, most of this stuff is off camera, right? It's all off camera. And as we go in, this is how I'm animating, right? I have the rock roll in. It's also spinning, it's shearing a bit, and it's turning this way. If I had to do it over again, I would face the light up, because that's where the sunlight ended up coming from, but I didn't know that. And unfortunately, the rendering software I use with that effect only allows the light to come from the top. So something for next time. But again, you won't notice it. I will. And that's why they pay me the big bucks, right? So now we've got these arms coming in, and this is me going to a point and placing that thing. So it starts here and it goes to here where it's grabbing it. So it moved down. And I guess I chose only to use one to keep it simple. But then the computer will actually fill in, the software will actually fill in the frames to move it from here to here, okay? And so as you see, there's stuff happening off screen here. We just don't see it. Okay. I think I have the camera moving in slightly, which is what this is. This is the camera doing its thing. So here it is. It's beginning to move in and shift a little bit as we get towards 180, frame 180. Now, at the same time, go to the plastic tool and animate. It's probably hidden right now. Yeah. I've had to create a mesh and a skeleton inside this thing. And that will enable the arms to move. I've made joints here, as you can see, and the little claspers to open up like that, okay? And this is a function. This is why I'm using OpenTunes in addition to the camera movement that we've seen in these layers. It really allows you to do some cool stuff. But again, you got to spend 5 hours trying to figure out how to make this work, because it doesn't just magically work for you automatically, because you push a button. You have to know which menus and what order to do things in. And in fact, in this case, I found out that you could not create the mesh properly overlaying the object unless the object was in the middle of the camera. So when I had it moved out here to begin with, and I tried to do it, the mesh would appear here and it wouldn't cover the object, and I couldn't make the skeleton over the object, so nothing would move right. So, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? Why is it broken? And that's frustrating, and you have to stick with it. And then after half an hour of struggling, an idea occurs. Oh, maybe if I start them off in the middle of the camera here, rather than out there in here, right? Just drag it in here and then get it to turn on. So as we move through, you can see the arms are moving, right? And the claspers are moving a little bit too. They're not as exaggerated as I might like them to be, but, you know, and it's still spinning until it's grabbed, okay? So that may look like a little thing. That was probably an hour to get that to work properly, okay? It's not something that just magically happens. Okay, now it's bitching because it's still thinking that I'm working with the mesh and the plastic tool. And I need to go back to animate. And now the function works correctly with the mouse. Yay. So now I know once I've grabbed the thing, I want to pan down and have that space station and the Earth start to appear. And you can see the camera moving in as well, right? Zooming in quite a bit. Okay? And I've made it do this. And that's using all these instructions down here. Although it will fill in, as I've said, from the beginning to the end. You put in your start point and your end point and kind of press go, and then it will figure out, okay, how am I going to make this work? And then at the same time, I've got the Earth shearing to the left, I think, and the station shearing to the right. And our little guy is there too. Right? See you there. Now, if I had had the inclination and more time, I probably would have had to do something like separate these, at least maybe one of these out of these arms out, cranes, put it in on top as its own layer, mesh it up, skeleton it up, and then I could have gotten it to move around. But I ultimately decided it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. You're not really going to see it. It's not going to really matter. It's not relevant to the plot, right, of what's going on. It still looks the way it looks. And the dude is moving, so he's kind of drifting a little bit this way as you go. He actually comes in from quite far. Remember, that's not on screen, right? They're not on screen yet until they get past that red line there. So I'm actually pulling him away in from where I had him stored off screen, basically, to there. So if we have this, and now and then I added on a second of nothing, of things just staying the same, so I can cut it in the later video that I'm putting it into, and have the right length. It's going to fade to my logo. So, and then now we can play it, see how it's going. See? And so all that's probably about 4 hours to get to that point, not including the stuff I did the night before. So add on another 45 minutes to an hour in prep, okay? So that's that. That's what OBS. Okay, so here it is in, I use CapCut because I paid for the Pro subscription at the beginning of the year. I may not use it after because, you know, they've got pretty brutal terms of service, but I don't care. You know, it's very handy with all the sound effects and visual effects that it's got. So the first thing I do here on this end, and again, this is like what, the fifth software that I'm using, right? Is I bring in the video. So there it is. That's this. That's this bar right here, this timeline track or whatever, okay? And CapCut is very user friendly. I like it a lot. I used Sony Movie Studio 13 for way too many years, 10 years or more, and it became very outdated, but I learned it, right? This is the thing. People jump shiny object to shiny object. Hey, have you heard of this new thing? Like, why don't you stop and learn how to really use one thing, right? This is why I'm not into Blender yet. I had a chat with ChatGPT about this. Do I go with Blender Grease Pencil, where I'm ultimately going to end up is Blender 3D? I know it because the lighting is amazing. But it's more complicated than OpenTunes. Even that graphical user interface is just what am I looking at? And then you got to flip through all these screens, kind of similar to OpenTunes. Or do I spend more time with OpenTunes that I already know a little bit about? I've spent more time than the 10 hours I've spent in Blender on it. Okay, let me figure out how OpenTunes works, and that's what led to this. So first thing is I want to add a special effect because I want some lighting, okay? And that's this bit right here, okay? That's sunset. And so you can scrub the timeline a little bit in this, and it'll show you most of the time how it would look with... see, that's great for Windows. I use that all the time when there's a window. But this one, I think, just turned out, Sunset 4, turned out to be the right one. That one was okay. I was initially worried about this level of smoke and stuff like that, and what I was able to do was turn the atmosphere down here, which got rid of a lot of that. Smoke in space behaves differently. It does exist in space, but it radiates out from a central point instead of going into the air the way we're used to it. So that lighting, again, that's one of the corrections that I would make if I were to do this again. I would orient the ball with the light to the top, right, and have it spin clockwise maybe, and shear a little bit this way. So, but again, I'm the only one who's going to see it, right? So run it through. Now, I know when we grab things in space, stuff pops off. So I have two effects here. Again, they've got their own settings. Some have more settings than others. Some have none of these effects. And again, knowing what I'm looking for, right? This is my familiarity with CapCut, is I know what it can do and what it can't, and I've got a pretty good idea. Now, I've put a mask on here, which is something that kind of, it's like a peephole almost, and you can change the shape of it with all these things. You can draw your own, you can paint your own or whatever. I use ovals a lot, which contains what this stuff is going to appear as, where it's going to be drawn. And the same with this gold dust thing here. I've got another mask, see? So they overlap, they're slightly different, and they create this boom, grab and stuff flying off. Now, as the object fades away, as the camera shifts, first of all, the yoink effect picture that I found here was an accident. It was a happy accident. I didn't mean that. But it's like when they film Star Wars ships by using motion control cameras, right? With the model stays still, the camera moves. So this is an idea of how you can get motion through a camera. And here, I don't need to do much. The light is doing its job. It's twinkling at the right direction or whatever. Now I need some sound effects, so I go into the audio sound effects, and I'm searching for what I want. And that's how I pick out these things. I know I need a low frequency noise, and ChatGPT may have even suggested something like this, right? And I'll know, this is again where my hearing or my audio soundscape understanding is very good. I know what I need to create something that's authentic and believable. So I go through a number. You can listen to samples of these sounds to hear, like, is this right? And then I need to line it up. In this case, this stuff where the grab happens and the dust starts to go and that kind of thing. And then this, as we get to the space station, as we peak, you see the waveform there of how that sound is peaking. That happens when the camera stops moving. It peaks there. Okay. Now I've got the final clip and I can export that and render it. So I hope this has been valuable to you in understanding what goes into making this stuff. It's not just AI, and even making images with AI is very difficult. It's not the walk in the park. And like, I haven't even had to do continuity here. If I had 2 scenes with the same character in it, getting it to draw the same character twice can be a real pain in the ass, right? And details can change, and you go away for a month and you come back and you type in the same prompt, because again, I've got them saved in the Google Doc, and it draws it differently. Yeah. And now you got to adjust from that starting point. So it is not the easy thing that people seem to think it is. This is not Sora. This is not, oh, just type in what you want or whatever. This is calculated choices and decisions on every step of the way. All right. If you want me being tough and standing behind your marketing and making stuff like this for you with a purpose. That's one thing we didn't get to in this video, right? How do you use this for lead generation? I just wanted to show off the process of making it. Then we should speak, all right? I've got an incredible combination of operational excellence, operations management, sales, copywriting, and space and defense experience and skills that nobody else has. Nobody else has this combination, okay? And I know for a fact that space firms usually don't want to hire some fancy Hollywood agency to help market, because they're like, these guys are too slick. Well, this is what I've got here, okay? And I can go hire an animator who's better than I am. I can, right? Because they're further along the journey. I look at where I've gone in 6 months. This is where I'm at 6 months into the journey, and maybe 350 hours, something like that, okay? Imagine where I'm going to be in a year, right? We're going to be flying around the moon. All right. You want to get a hold of me? I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You know how to find me. Thanks for watching.